Hello everyone. Today we will start the first chapter of political science. Political science is the same subject that we had studied civics till 8th standard. So in 9th and 10th standard we called the subject as the political science. As the name suggests, we will learn more about the political things that happens or related with our own country or all over the world. Okay, so we will take a brief account what are the political changes happened in our country that improved the situation or the condition of our country or even the world situation. So in all we have 5 chapters in this subject. Okay, so one by one we will go through the topic and we will discuss about the different aspects of this chapter. So our first chapter is post world war political development. What do you mean post world war? We all know in last century, in 20th century, two world war happened, right? Till now we had seen the two world war, World War One and World War Two. Okay, why this war is called the World War? We all know wars are not new in history, or many wars are fought in different territories for different purposes or different objective. But in last century there was a tremendous change seen to gain the power. It started among the European countries. Okay, if you see, both the wars resulted in a great loss, and not only those war, any war we had seen or we had listened or we had seen in any newspapers or in television channels, it always resulted into destruction, maybe the human life or may result to the property or the damage of the food grains. So never the war been in a positive way. World War happened for the 4 years and second World War II happens for the 6 year. Moreover, if we compare, there are less countries in World War One, and in World War Two there are more countries involved. It means since more countries are involved, more war or more destruction happened. Even if you see the time period, World War One happened for the 4 year and World War Two happened for the 6 year. World War One started in 1914 and it ended at 1918. And we talk about the World War II, it started at 1939 and it ended at 1945. The two big countries of Europe, England and Germany, they participated extensively in this war, and they participated from day one to day last. Okay, and both the countries impacted lot. The difference only that Germany considered as the loser in both the wars, but England was considered as the victorious nation in both the wars. But doesn't war help any of the country, even the Germany, not even the England. So we'll discuss about the world war or the political situation all over the country in the past and today's condition in the world, and what are the different aspects on the basis this situation change all over the world. Okay, so everyone, let's begin with the page number 57, chapter number 1, post world war political development. In the civics textbook, yes, till now we had learned the civics textbook and we had seen about the government, democracy. Remember in 8th standard we learned about the judicial system, legislative, executive, democracy, right? We have studied local self-government institutions, India's constitution and our political system or governmental structure. In this class, we are going to study India's relation with the world. You must have understood world geography through the study of geography. You must have become familiar with the global historical events through the history of you must have become familiar with the global historical events through the study of history. So with the help of geography, we know the geographical condition. With the help of history, we know about the historical events. Now to the study of political science, we are going to study India's relation with the world and some major global issue. So with the help of the political science chapter or the subject, we will see the global changes or the global issues that affecting most of the countries. We are dependent on different persons, institution and organization in the society for different reasons and for different facilities. Yes, it's true None of the person can say that they are not dependent on anyone for anything. Even the big country, maybe it's small, big, rich, poor, developed, underdeveloped, each and every country is dependent for somewhat on other country. We are dependent on different persons, institution and organizations in the society for different reasons and for different facilities. Our social life is interdependent and mutual cooperation has a very important place in it. Our society or our life has interdependent on each other. What is interdependent? Depending on each other, right? Mutual relations or the mutual condition. What does mutual means? Between two or between more than one, right? We are connected with each other in the society, in the family. Even you can see in your family also, if we are 4 or 5 members, then we are dependent on each other, right? So we live in a society, so we are dependent upon our neighbors, we depend upon our relatives or our government, civil services. So it is a kind of connection. Just as it is true about individuals in the society, it applies to different nation also, right? Since common people or the individual are dependent on each other, then the countries as well as depend upon each other. We see many times India imports many things from different nations and exports many things to different nations. So it is a give and take relation which is following by all nations. There are many independent nations in the world like India. Some exchange and interaction goes on between them constantly. Even the countries are independent, but there are kind of exchange between them. These independent states also enter into treaties with each other, and also to make a relation there are treaties between each other. What is a treaty? Treaty is a kind of friendship agreement, a kind of deal on what basis we will function, what are our output, what are our returns. So these are discussions happen. A system of all these independent sovereign states come up. We call it as the international system, and this kind of system is called as the international system, where this give and take relation happens. Let us get to know some features of this international system. So let us have some kind of feature of this international system. Interdependence. All the countries of the world are dependent on each other, right? Interdependence means depending on each other for one reason or the other. However, big, prosperous. What is prosperous? Wealthy, developed. तो चाहे कंट्री बड़ी हो, डेवलप्ड हो, इकोनॉमी ज़्यादा हो, बट डिपेंड तो रहना पड़ता है ना. इंडिया इज कंसिडर्ड एज अ डेवलपिंग नेशन. रशिया, Japan, China, America, England, they are considered as the developed nation. But all these nations are dependent on each other na, for so many reasons. However big, prosperous or developed a nation may be, it can never be a self-sufficient about all its needs. So none of the country is self-sufficient. What is self-sufficient? Self-dependent. कोई भी कंट्री ऐसा नहीं बोल सकती कि नहीं मुझे किसी की ज़रूरत नहीं है, मेरे पास सारे रिसोर्सेस हैं, मेरे पास सारे फूड ग्रेन्स हैं, या मेरे पास सारे वेपन्स हैं, या मेरे पास सारे पैसे हैं, मुझे किसी की ज़रूरत नहीं है. ऐसा पॉसिबल है क्या? नहीं, बिल्कुल नहीं. Even big nation have to depend upon other big and small nation. Even big nations, we have example of America, Russia, China, Japan. Thus, interdependence is an important feature of the international system, that today's global system. So, international system became a kind of function that following by all the nation. That is today's global system. Global, when we say global, global related to the world. International relations through foreign policy. And since we are talking about the international relations, so international relations are functioned with the help of foreign policy. So now what is foreign policy? In this chapter we don't discuss much about the foreign policy. Our second chapter of the political science is all about the foreign policy. So in next chapter we will discuss the all aspects of foreign policy. But in this, just take a small information about the foreign policy. Foreign policy is a kind of planning. Okay, when we make relation with other nation, we need to follow the guidelines or the instruction or the rules set by the both countries, right? For example, when India had agreed for any deal with Japan or Russia or China or America, then we will follow our own culture, tradition, or the condition or our constitution? No, we need to follow there also, because it is a kind of mutual relation, right? So for that we need a proper planning, and through foreign policy that planning can be successful. Every nation has policies about its internal dealings as also about its relation with other nation. Such a policy is called foreign policy. So every country has their own planning, has their own conditions in the relation. This planning or these conditions are called as the foreign policy. We are going to study India's foreign policy in detail in next chapter. So in next chapter or in second chapter we will learn more about the foreign policy. Okay, so let's start about the topic which we has discussed, the political changes that happened after the World War. So background, what was the situation, why this thing happened, or what are the consequences? The world in which we live today has been shaped through many events and development, right? There are so many things have changed in past which affected the today's world or the today's history. Hence we need to go back to history in order to understand today's world, and to understand the today's world we will need to go back to history and check what are the events that impacted on our current scenario. We know that 2 world wars were fought in the last century. These were the most important events in the world in that century. The world completely changed because of them. New currents of thought emerged. Emerge means begin. New current of thought means new ideas, new thinking, a new kind of political achievements. Let us understand what else happened due to this World War. So there are too many changes happened due to the effect of this World War. So let's take a look what are the other changes that impacted. When we talk the First World War, the First World War was fought between 1914 and 1918. Major countries of Europe took part in it. Europe had a very central place in the international global system at that time. If we consider at that time, 100 years back or before that also, Europe played a very important role. We had seen or we had learned in the 8th standard that most of the European countries has captured the different parts of the world, right? Not only in India, like in India we have a Britishers, in other countries, whether maybe the Dutch, the French, the Portuguese, other rulers had made the imperialistic movement, right? तो यूरोप का अपना एक वैल्यू था, एक कंट्रोल था. तो क्या हो गया ऐसा कि आज यूरोप डेवलप तो है बट इतना पावरफुल, इतना फेमस नहीं है, बिकॉज ऑफ द वर्ल्ड वॉर. एज आई ऑलरेडी टोल्ड यू, इंग्लैंड एंड जर्मनी इम्पैक्टेड वर्स्टली. एक टाइम था जब भी इंग्लैंड ने 70% कंट्रीज पर रूल किया था. आज इंग्लैंड के पास प्रॉपर इकोनॉमी नहीं है. तो सोचो ना, हमारे कंट्री से इंग्लैंड ने कितना वेल्थ लिया. वी हैड डिस्कस इन 8th स्टैंडर्ड, राइट? बाकी कंट्री से भी इंग्लैंड ने सेम वेल्थ लिया होगा. तो ये सब पैसा कहाँ गया? ऑल दिस मनी वेस्टेड इन वॉर. एंड डस it benefited anyone? No, none got any benefit from the war. The war caused a tremendous, what a tremendous, huge, right? Huge loss. The war caused a tremendous loss of life and property. The countries which joined the war suffered tremendous economic losses. Even the countries which did not join the war were impacted by the war. So those countries who did not join the war, but they were impacted. Like for example, India didn't join the war, but it got impacted because Britishers at the time, Britishers were ruling in India. So they took all the resources from India, the soldiers from India, our food grains, money, all they wasted in war. So we are also impacted now. The economies of the victorious as well as losing country collapse. The economy, we know economy, money, wealth, collapsed means destroyed of both the countries, even the victorious or the losers. victorious को भी नुकसान तो हुआ ना, बस फर्क क्या था? victorious को एक टाइटल मिला कि they are the winner, that's it. कुछ ज़्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ा, कुछ बेनिफिट नहीं मिला. So we have a list which countries are involved in the First World War. There are also few other countries, those who are not so very famous or very small countries. So we have a list of big nations. So it is a kind of world war. So there are two teams, like we see in the World Cups. We have a team A, team B. Different teams fight, different countries fight with or play with each other. In the same way, in allied powers, we have Britain, France, Russia, Italy and America. You can see the list. These all are the powerful nation. Russia, Britain, France, these all are powerful. At the opposite side, the only powerful nation was Germany, Austria, Hungary, Turkey, Bulgaria. These are not so powerful. At the end of the First World War, all the nation felt that such a war should not happen again and some measure needs to be taken to achieve that end. So after the First World War, all the nations realized their mistakes and they thought कि in future war should not happen, and for that we need to make some kind of arrangement to bring peace in the world. And in following that, they had started the League of Nations, and League of Nations functioned almost for 20 years in a very dedicated manner. But after 20 years, again in 1939, when the Second World War arises, League of Nations was completely shut down. And once the Second World War ended in 1945, then United Nations was formed, and God grace, still today United Nations working for the welfare of all the nation. We will learn more about the United Nations in coming chapters also. At the end of the First World War, all the nation felt that such a war should not happen again, and some measures needs to be taken to achieve that end. What are measures? Measures means steps. Some steps needs to be taken to stop such thing. An international organization called the League of Nations was established out of this thinking. It became an important platform to solve international disputes and carry out negotiation. What are disputes? Disputes means issues. So League of Nations became a common platform where all the nation can discuss with each other and they can solve their international disputes problem by peaceful means, right? War, why war needed? The main responsibility of the League of Nations was understood to be avoid war. So the responsibility of the League of Nations was to avoid the war. After the First World War, major changes came about in Europe and outside Europe. So after First World War, there are so many changes. Many big countries divided into different parts. Many territories got independence. Many countries had accepted the democracy. So there are so many political changes or the boundary changes happened. For example, earlier empires in Europe collapsed and new nations came into being. So जो पुराने rulers थे वो मारे गए या फिर उनकी टेरिटरी कैप्चर्ड हो गई. ऐसे बहुत सारे चेंजेस हुए. Many European countries had their colonies in continental Africa and Asia. Movements for independence started in this colony. So as we know, most of the European countries had made their colonies in Asia and Africa. So these colonies also demanded for the independence like we did. Indians also, we also started our freedom struggle against the Britishers. This movement challenged the hegemony of the European nation. What is hegemony? Hegemony can say the power, the control or the dominance. So कहीं ना कहीं यूरोपियन कंट्रीज का जो एक डोमिनेंस था, कंट्रोल था, वो कम हो रहा था, राइट? League of Nations was established after the First World War to establish peace, but it did not succeed as preventing war. But आगे जाके ये इतना सक्सेसफुल नहीं हुआ या फिर इसने वॉर कंट्रोल कर नहीं पाया. और सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर होने के बाद लीग ऑफ नेशन का कोई इतना ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंस नहीं रहा. Autocratic regimes. What are autocratic regimes? Autocratic means such powerful, those who are not listening to the League of Nations or those who are not following the rules or regulations set by the League of Nations, right? You can say dominating or aggressive. Autocratic means aggressive. Autocratic regimes came up in Germany, Italy, Spain and other countries. All these development culminated in the Second World War. What is culminated? Culminated means resulted. These tensions or these kind of differences resulted into the Second World War. Okay, what is Second World War? The Second World War was fought between 1939 and 1945. It proved to be far more destructive as compared to First World War. Second World War considered as far more destructive. than the First World War. Not only was it more widespread compared to the First World War, but also more advanced technology was employed in this war, because it was lasted for longer, and even the technology was developed. आप इमेजिन करो फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर में ज़्यादा डेवलप क्या होगा, गन्स हुए रहेंगे, बट सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर में तो फाइटर प्लेन्स तक आगे थे, टैंक्स थे, इवन वी हैड सीन अमेरिका यूज न्यूक्लियर वेपन. सो इमेजिन द डिस्ट्रक्शन. Countries which took part in the Second World War once again faced the situation of economic crisis. So again, the countries who participated in the Second World War faced the situation of crisis. The countries involved in the Second World War. Which are the countries involved in the Second World War? If we talk about the Allied powers, we have Britain, France, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, India. Even India participated due to some conditions that were put by the Britishers. Soviet Union. Soviet Union means Russia. At that time, Russia was called as Soviet Union. In further topic, we will discuss what happens to Russia or the Soviet Union. China, America, and Axis power, Germany, Japan, and Italy. If you see, Italy in First World War, Italy was in Allied powers, but in Second World War, it changed to the Germany's group. America played a major role in the Second World War. America considered as the superpower because it has uses its weapon almost over the nuclear weapon. It has manufactured nuclear weapon. In order to end the war, it dropped 2 nuclear weapons on 2 cities of Japan. We all know Hiroshima and Nagasaki on 6th and 9th August 1945 respectively. On Hiroshima 6th August and Nagasaki 9th August. The Second World War ended with the defeat of Germany in Europe and of Japan in Asia. So Japan surrendered after the nuclear attack. So in Asia, Japan was the powerful country, those who got surrendered, and even Germany also surrendered after the death of Hitler. Among the many events that took place in the world after the Second World War was the beginning of Cold War. So after the Second World War, there was a new change seen by the people, was the Cold War. So what is Cold War? So we will discuss more about the Cold War in next topic. That happened from 1945 to 1991. 1945 to 1991 is the long period of the Cold War. Let us take stock of a few changes in this period. So what was Cold War and how it has happened, or what are the different consequences that resulted in the Cold War, or what exactly was the Cold War that happened after the Second World War, right?